Alright, so this is take two. Yesterday I recorded hours worth of audio for this video, and at some point my laptop has this thing where even though it's closed, it'll just start playing like if I have YouTube open, it just starts playing the YouTube video automatically. It's really loud and really annoying, so I muted my mic in the process of trying to fix that, and then I went back to recording and I forgot to unmute my mic, so I had about 40 minutes worth of absolute static. So I had to restart this video. This video, as you probably can tell by the title, I'm talking about Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls series is a very special series to me. It's Oblivion in particular is my all-time favorite. So going into this, just a warning ahead of time, I'm going to constantly refer to Oblivion, but that's because Oblivion is my baseline experience. So it's just you're gonna hear me referring to Oblivion a lot, but that does not mean that I don't. Any kind of criticism I give this game, it doesn't mean I don't like it. I like Skyrim, but I think it's got some flaws and some issues in comparison to other Elder Scrolls games. If Skyrim was by itself, it's generally a pretty good game. But as an Elder Scrolls game, and that is important to people who are longtime fans of the Elder Scrolls series. But Skyrim as an Elder Scrolls game is very blasé in comparison to Oblivion and Morrowind. Morrowind is typically the one held in high regard. I would argue Oblivion in it's in a lot of aspects, not all of them, but Oblivion is my first Elder Scrolls game, and it's my all-time favorite Elder Scrolls game. So that's why you'll hear a lot of comparisons, essentially. And then more on the whole. If this game was released on to just a general audience as a solo title, it's indicative to understand that going into this review, because something I can't stand about most other Skyrim reviews is they're 10 minutes long, and you could generally tell that the people reviewing it don't actually appreciate Skyrim, or Elder Scrolls for that matter. They probably have only played Skyrim, and they haven't gone back and played Oblivion or Morrowind. And that, to me, it kind of irritates me a little bit, because you have a solid franchise that's a lot of fun to play, and then the most popular game in that franchise is meant more to appeal to a casual audience than the rest of the franchise does. I'll talk more about this later, but I feel it's important to kind of go into detail why I feel about what I feel about these things. If you don't want to hear me go into, it's probably going to be an hour-long rant, but if you don't want to hear that, the short of it is that I do like Skyrim, but when they make Elder Scrolls 6, I want them to remember that Elder Scrolls 6 should be made for Elder Scrolls fans, not for a casual audience. Skyrim should not be made to appeal to a general gaming audience. As nice as it would be to make a game that appeals to everybody, to me, in my opinion, it's a detriment to the Elder Scrolls, and you see this. There's a bit of a decline, and I kind of agree with this general consensus, but a decline in Bethesda's game titles. Um, Maybe another time I'll talk about that in general, but it the short of it is that you kind of have a peak in Morrowind. It dips down a little bit in Oblivion. Um, Fallout 3 holds its own a bit. Uh, and then Skyrim it starts going. It's really kind of starts going down, and then Fallout 4 it goes down further. Um, and this is generally because they slowly keep cleaving out the kind of content that people who enjoy Bethesda or Western style RPGs they just keep cleaving that kind of stuff out. So that the short of it is that's how I feel about it. I'm gonna go now in more detail though for people who want I guess like more evidence and more proof of what I'm talking about. But we'll start with the story, the writing in the game in general. We'll start with that. There's I didn't play a lot of Morrowind, so I can't exactly say for certain what that is like. But in Oblivion, and they carry it over to Skyrim. But in comparison to the Fallout franchise, Elder Scrolls does a thing where instead of tying all of the quests and connecting all of the quests into the main story, instead what they do, or I shouldn't say quests, factions. They don't connect all of the factions in the Elder Scrolls franchise to the main story. If you've never played Elder Scrolls and you've played Fallout though, you'll notice that all of the factions in Fallout intertwine with the story in Fallout. In Elder Scrolls it's different. Every faction gets its own little bubble. And I love that. I actually prefer Elder Scrolls over Fallout because of that. Because it feels like you're getting more game. It feels like you're getting a bigger... It feels like the whole universe does not revolve around a single event, but rather there's a whole bunch of events going on. The world's a big place, and there's a lot of people in that world, so it stands to reason that not everything is going to revolve around this event. So, in Skyrim in particular, we have, let's see here. We'll count them out loud right now. We have the two main quests. Skyrim's got two main quests. They have the Dragonborn they have the we'll call it the Dragonborn quest, and then they have the Skyrim Civil War. Then off to the side you have companions, the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, the College of Winterhold, and then as DLC, Dawnguard and Solstein. Okay? So we have, what's that? 9 or 8 different, like, faction quests, essentially. But in general, none of them really, none of them intertwine as much as you would expect them to. In fact, the only two that intertwine are the two main quests, and it's not a super big intertwinement, but we'll get into that. But first off, I guess we should go into like what the the main quest is technically, and the main quest is technically the Dragonborn. The Dragonborn quest is kind of a by the numbers. What is that called? A by the numbers destiny, a destiny story. It's the hero discovers he's got a power, and it turns out he is the one who was prophesized to stop the bad guy. and it's kind of by the numbers in that regard. The the gist of it being Alduin the World Eater, who is the son of Akatosh. Akatosh is like the god of like time and space, essentially, in the Elder Scrolls lore. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But Alduin's like, he's basically a spoiled child. So he like throws a hissy fit, and he tries to like he's just like kind of being a little shithead on Earth, and he's pissing off the Nords, and the Nords get tired of it, so they're like, fuck it. Did I call it Earth? I meant Nern. My bad. Nords get pissed off, so they say fuck it, and there's like a rebellion, and then another goddess or Akatosh, I think. I probably should just not try to get too deep into the lore on this, but the gist of it is Alduin gets pushed forward in time, and that's where the Skyrim starts. Skyrim is basically Alduin's return, and the Dragonborn has to stop him. And you don't know you're the Dragonborn at first, but your first time killing a dragon, you absorb the dragon's soul, and it unlocks your first shout. And when you unlock the first shout, that's when everybody figures out you're the Dragonborn and all that shit. And then if a bunch of stuff happens that is kind of unremarkable in the grand scheme of things. The only exception of that being that you meet Alduin's brother Parthenax at the top of the throat of the world, and he basically helps you, the player, beat and kill his brother Alduin. It's not like, again, it's not like a super complicated story. There's not like a whole lot of twists and turns to it. A neat thing that they do is they do intertwine the other main quest, which is the Skyrim Civil War. And the way they intertwine it is, at a certain point during the main quest, if you have not completed the Skyrim Civil War yet, what happens is you're forced to bring both sides to a meeting table, and you have to negotiate a temporary peace until the dragon situation is resolved. And you're doing this so that way you can capture a dragon, so you can ride the dragon to an unreachable location on the map for the final boss. For basically, it's how you get to Alduin in the long run. But that's like kind of the most that they do with intertwining the two main quests. Other than that, they're kind of not. They're kind of like, again, they're their own separate events happening in the Elder Scrolls universe. The Dragonborn thing is the most important event happening in the world, but it's like this Civil War is also happening at the same time. Actually, they kind of, during the main quest and all that, there's tons of speculation as maybe the dragon's return is connected to the Civil War and all that, and it really isn't. If you actually play through the, like, if you put the main quest off to the side and just play the Civil War, it turns out they're not even connected. It's which to me, it would make things a little more interesting if you found a way to connect the two a little bit. Like, maybe maybe the Imperials are trying to train dragons, or maybe the Stormcloaks are also trying to train dragons, something like that. That would be a neat concept, as you have like this arms race between the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. But that's like but they don't have anything really like that. The negotiation part, that even boils down to who's your favorite faction, and you kind of have to pick and choose between the two. But that's like the gist of the main story. The Civil War, it's it's a pick your flavor of politics kind of deal. The Stormcloaks are like basically they're fighting for their independence from the Empire, and they're fighting so they can preserve their right to worship Talos, while the Empire is fighting to preserve the Empire essentially, and that's about it. It's there's like nuance, like some level of nuance given to the politics of the situation, but it does feel like they kind of set it up so that way neither side is the right or the wrong side. So that's again it when you beat the quest, all it really does is it changes the guards in the cities. Like any cities controlled by the Imperials and taken over by the Stormcloaks, the guards are replaced with Stormcloak soldiers, and vice versa. So the whole main quest, it's not bad. It's just kind of blasé. There's not a lot of depth to the Skyrim Civil War quest. There's not a lot of depth to a lot of the quests, as you're going to see as we continue down. I'm gonna now that we get the main quest out of the way, I can talk about the faction quests, and this is where a lot of those Oblivion comparisons are going to be coming in. But one more thing I guess I should probably address before I get too deep into the faction quests is a cool thing that they did with the faction quests in this game that they did not do in Oblivion, and I don't know if I want them to bring it back. But a neat thing they did was they kind of they introduced the player to the different factions as you're playing the main quest. If you're playing the Dragonborn quest, you are going to at some point be introduced to basically every faction, minus the Dark Brotherhood. What I mean by this is, okay, so right off the bat, in the beginning of the game, you're introduced to the Civil War and the Dragonborn quest. On your way from Riverside? Fuck, why can't I remember the name of that? On your way to Whiterun, Whiterun the city, you bump into the companions who are killing a giant that's attacking a farm. And that's where you're introduced to the companions. After a series of events, you are sent to Riften to locate a certain character. And when you enter, and to find that certain character, you have to actually talk to a member of the Thieves Guild. You can't get down into this area without actually doing the first quest in the Thieves Guild quest. But once you do that, you're introduced to the Thieves Guild. And then, after another series of events, you're sent to the College of Winterhold. And you're introduced to the College of Winterhold quest. And then with the Solstein DLC, actually it's called the Dragonborn DLC, but I call it the Solstein DLC specifically to distinguish it from the main quest. But essentially, the Solstein DLC, it gets introduced kind of in a shoehorned way, because it definitely wasn't there when they first launched the game. But basically, after you get your Dragonborn training on top of the Throne of the World, these cultists show up, and they're like, hey, you're not the real Dragonborn. We're worshipping the real Dragonborn on this island of Solstein, so fuck you. And they try to kill you, and you end up killing them instead. And that introduces you to the Solstein quest. Dawnguard has almost no real introduction, except a recruiter will run up and, at some point, or somebody will mention the Dawnguard at some point. Somebody will talk to it. talk about them. There's no real like connection to the rest of the game other than somebody at some point will mention Dawnguard. So now that that's out of the way, or now that oh no, actually, it's not, I'm not done. Well, the point I was getting at, it's kind of neat how they introduce you to all of those quest lines. It's just neat how they kind of, yeah, well, that's all I really have to say about it. It's kind of neat, and I don't know if I want them to bring it back or not, because I kind of like the idea of discovering the factions without the game's help. One of my favorite stories with Skyrim is I didn't know how to contact the Dark Brotherhood for my first two characters. I did not know how to do it. I didn't have internet at the time, so I couldn't possibly look it up. But I had, you know, I was playing, this is back like Skyrim on the PlayStation 3, we're talking like 2011. But I knew the Dark Brotherhood was in the game because they kept sending assassins after me. But I didn't know how to get to them. And my brother discovered it by accident. My brother likes to poke the game like it's a dead raccoon carcass on the side of the road. He just likes to fuck with shit to see what happens. And he went into the orphanage and he just murders Grellig the Kind, right? No good reason. He just murders her right in front of all the orphans just because he thought it was funny to kill this old lady in front of some orphans. But that's how but then you end up falling asleep, and that's how you get introduced to the Dark Brotherhood in the game. But there's no, unless there's a kind of a hint to go to. There's kind of a hint that leads you into that whole killing Grellig the Kind thing, but it's short. The kind of like it's actually relatively easy to miss. They kind of don't actually do anything that can substantially make sure that the player goes there and checks it out. They don't do anything that will like draw your attention to it like they do with the other quests. Like the Thieves Guild, like if you could go down into the Rift and Sewers, or I suppose you can go into the Rift and Sewers without talking to Brynjolf, but Brynjolf walks up and talks to you. Like he introduces himself to the player, and then the companions. It's like you can miss that event where they're killing a giant, but when you go into Whiterun, it's kind of hard to miss the companions' headquarters because it's a giant upside down Viking ship in the middle of the fucking city. So it's hard to miss them. And then the College of Winterhold, you're gonna go to Winterhold at some point. And Winterhold's a small city. It's not even a city, really. It's 3 fucking houses outside of this giant fucking fortress. And the fortress is the College of Winterhold. So Dark Brotherhood has got like basically little to no actual highlight to it. You just kind of you stumble upon it, which I like that. I actually like the idea that, you know, it's not a big old bright light shone upon it. I like the idea that the player discovers it on their own. That's actually how it works in Oblivion, sort of. I mean, you'll hear rumors that if you murder somebody, that's how the Dark Brotherhood recruits people. Okay, but unless if you're like one of those players like my brother who just likes to kill shit because it's funny, then you're not going to try to murder anybody at any given point. So that one point though where maybe you accidentally kill somebody, or maybe you kill one of the guards because you like their armor. That is when you get introduced to the Dark Brotherhood. Same thing with the Thieves Guild. I played Oblivion twice, and I didn't know about the existence of the Thieves Guild. I knew the Grey Fox was in the game because there's wanted posters of him all over the Imperial City, but I didn't really know there was a Thieves Guild. And then I accidentally discovered it by basically in Oblivion, the way you stumble upon the Thieves Guild is if you get arrested for stealing something and you serve a prison sentence, a beggar will come up and tell you to meet with a contact at the Thieves Guild. And I like that. I kind of almost prefer that over what they did in Skyrim. What they did in Skyrim was smart, but I think in the future Elder Scrolls game, I like the idea where it's everything just exists in this world for the player to discover, as opposed to the game leads you by the hand, even if it's relatively easy to miss it. To more specifically talk about the faction quests themselves, like the factions quests themselves in Skyrim are completely lackluster in comparison to Oblivion. Uh, the Dark Brotherhood in particular is a big time letdown in my personal opinion. If you have not played Oblivion yet, then please, if not for anything else, for the Dark Brotherhood quest, play Oblivion, because the writing in it is fucking gold. It is great. There's so much character to it. And it's so well written. The characters alone are enough to rave about. I won't go deep into it here, because this is not an Oblivion review. This is a Skyrim review. But the general point is that Oblivion does these quests a lot better, especially the Dark Brotherhood. In Skyrim, the Dark Brotherhood is like they're basically on their last legs because they've had a long string of bad luck, and there's like a fucking it's just kind of boring. There's like betrayal and stuff, but honestly, like, there's not enough character in it for me to like really like it. Though there's like Cicero, who's like the ecstatic what's the word I'm looking for? Crazy guy. That's not even the word I'm looking for. Like eccentric. That's it. He's like the eccentric character of the group, but they're all kind of supposed to be eccentric in their own way. It's like a fucking meeting of the world's worst X-Men, essentially. That's the only way I could describe it, because the characters are kind of boring. They're just like they're there. You could talk with them, but they're honestly like. They're like much more like set dressing than in comparison to the Dark Brotherhood in Oblivion. The Thieves Guild is same story. They're on their last legs. That's kind of a reoccurring theme for those two quests for some reason. But they're on their last legs. There's a surprise betrayal. Oh my god. It just dawned on me that those quests are basically fucking copy-paste. Like, holy fuck. It literally, I'm not kidding, it dawned on me just now. Those quests are kind of copy-paste. Like, they're not total copy-paste, but there's, yeah, a lot of too many similar elements. They probably had the same person write both quests. They're not good. They're not very good. Yeah. Dark Brotherhood is not or Thieves Guild in Oblivion or Skyrim is not very good. This one, to get specific as to why it's not very good in comparison to Oblivion. In Oblivion, the Thieves Guild the way they had to set apart the Thieves Guild from the Dark Brotherhood was the Thieves Guild was a no-kill faction. You were not allowed to kill at least human beings. I think monsters were exempt from this rule, but you were not allowed to kill human beings in the Thieves Guild. You were not allowed to murder. The Thieves Guild, even whether on or off mission, killing was not allowed. You're just, nope, sorry. If you got to get arrested, but don't kill anybody. In fact, you had to pay like a fine or something like that every time you killed somebody. In Skyrim, you could kill people, and there's no real penalty to it. And because of it, it's there's no real stakes. The sneaking is super, like, sneaking in Skyrim is OP, especially if you can murder everybody in the room without anybody noticing. And Thieves Guild is no exception to that. There's like no stakes to any of the sneaking. It's just kind of like, oh look, you fucking killed all my guards. Aren't you a thief? Yeah, it's not a. In comparison to fucking Oblivion, it's not even comparable. The one faction I'll say, it sets itself apart enough is the companion quest in Skyrim. The companions is just gonna quote. They are exact opposite, or I shouldn't say exact opposites. They're different from the Fighters Guild in Oblivion. In Fighters Guild in Oblivion, it's like, the short of it is, they're basically just mercenary. It's like you're part of a mercenary company, but a rival mercenary company shows up, and you have to deal with that essentially. It's interesting enough. There's like some twists to it that make it interesting, but it's not like anything to write home about. The companions is basically on the same level, except the twist to it is the companions are secretly werewolves, and that's just kind of like a it feels almost shoehorned in, because it's almost a nothing burger. Like, you basically, it's like, here, have a werewolf ability. Okay, and now what? What do I do with my werewolf stuff other than kill people? There's no like quests really revolved around it, and I don't count quests where you're hunting down pieces of this axe. I can't remember the name of the axe, but you're hunting down parts of it, and I don't count that as fucking werewolf shit, because you can complete those quests without turning into a werewolf. There's no, like, you can complete the whole thing without turning into a werewolf. It's there's no real like to it. It's just kind of like, oh yay, werewolves, cool, okay. Mercenary stuff, okay, I can deal with mercenary stuff. It's fine. That's not even like necessarily like the writer's fault in a way. It's kind of hard to make mercenaries interesting. Mercenaries are supposed to be just that bare bones basic idea that I need a guy with a sword to deal with a problem, and the city guard won't deal with that problem, but these guys will if I give them gold. And those problems are always going to boil down to simple stuff. The only way they could probably make it interesting is if they somehow tied the companion quest to the Civil War. Maybe like make it so the Imperials and the Stormcloaks are in a bidding war over who gets to hire the companions, and the companions like have to pick a side. But that's kind of like again a nothing thing. The College of Winterhold is lackluster in comparison to the Mages Guild, and that's because magic is lackluster. It's Skyrim in comparison to Oblivion. In Oblivion, you could make your own spells, and that's what made it interesting, because you do a lot of stuff in Oblivion. I believe you could like combine effects. Like, I believe there was I made a spell where it shot like an explosion. It would shoot a projectile out that exploded upon impact, and it would do two things. It would catch people on fire, and it would heal them. I can't. I think I just did it just to see if I could, and I believe I actually was able to make that spell. But you could make a bunch of spells, even if they were completely worthless. You could still make them, and you could call them whatever you wanted to. Uh, and there was also staff make. Actually, I think the staff making only happened once. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but you could make staffs in Oblivion. You can't do these things in Skyrim. They kept the enchanting in Skyrim, but I can't remember if enchanting was better in Oblivion or not. To be honest, I didn't toy with enchanting as much as I did in Skyrim. I played with that shit a little bit more. I think they both kind of came out somewhat lackluster. And they also have alchemy, and alchemy is, again, it's kind of hard to really say if they're lackluster or not. They did add into Skyrim, like a big theme they did with Skyrim that I've noticed is they would take one thing away, but they would always replace it with something else. Your mileage from that something else may vary, but at least they put it in. And one of the things they did was they added in weapon and armor crafting, which is, they're kind of cool. You know, you can like upgrade them, and then you can even enchant them. So it's not like you get this piece of armor and, like, oh, that's it. No, you can like upgrade it and make it tougher, or you can enchant it and give it some kind of magical ability. So there was those things going for it. But I kind of like spellcast, like spell making. If they could bring back spell making, that'd be great. I guess I should probably mention another positive that they did with the magic in this game. They significantly improved the animations in Skyrim. Like, I remember in Oblivion, like, the most mages in Oblivion, they would stand there like as if they're not attacking you, and then they would just like lift their hand and like magic would come out of their hand. That's it. Like Skyrim, they at least put the effort of like, if you got like a flame spell activated, then there's like 2 fireballs in your character's hand, and then they gotta cast them at you. And then they even add in dual casting, because like, yeah, that's something they added in Skyrim, was like they've added in dual wielding. Before I continue this train of thought, I just want everybody to notice that the fucking Mages Guild is so uninteresting. I haven't actually talked about it yet. I just keep talking about other things that they've added into the game. But that's how uninteresting it is. So that I'm going to wrap up the Mages Guild right there. It's extremely uninteresting. I'm actually playing through it right now. The only good side to the Mages Guild is that you get a decent access to magical stuff like spells and equipment and people who could like train you, and that's it. So I'm gonna wrap up the fucking College of Winterhold there, but that's all there is to them. Where was I? The fucking they added dual wielding in. That's it. We're on to gameplay now. Gameplay for now. But they added in dual wielding, which is really cool. I like it a lot. My main character dual wield scimitars. I like that. Because like you could do interesting things with the dual wielding. Like you can have a staff in one hand and a sword in the other, or a spell in one hand and a staff in the other, or the only thing you can't really dual wield is like bows and double-handed weapons. It's shields. You can't dual wield shields, but I mean, like whatever. Fuck it. You can't get everything. It would be neat is if in the two-handed weapon category, if they would add in a perk where you could one-hand a two-handed weapon, and then you could just dual wield 2 claymores. That would be pretty badass. But yeah, no, it's a pretty good system, and I hope they carry it over to Elder Scrolls 6. I can't believe they didn't like try to find a way to carry it over to Fallout 4. Like imagine like dual wielding 10mm pistols in Fallout 4. Like I can't believe they didn't think of that. Like that should be a fucking thing. Bethesda, god damn it, Bethesda. Fuck me. Don't make me do your thinking for you. Anyway, yeah, so dual wielding, should definitely carry over to the next game. But definitely bring back spell casting. And a bigger variety of spells would be nice too. Like what we got in the game is kind of it's extremely lackluster. It's a lot of the same, more or less. Like Candlelight, for instance. I think there's a couple others after that, but you have like Candlelight only lasts for like 30 seconds, but then you can buy a better version of Candlelight with like 60 seconds and all. It's like, can you just like give us a one spell for that? Like, you could probably fit more spells into the game if you stop putting repeats in. There's Oak Flesh and then Stone Flesh. Like, we put a bigger variety in. It'd be more interesting. It would be more interesting that way. Back to story elements for a little bit. We'll talk about the 2 DLCs now. There's technically 3, but honestly, I think it's called Heartfire. It's kind of like you get to build a house, and it's more tedious than fun, to be honest. The only good thing about Heartfire is you can build like a better house, a slightly better house than what you find in most of the cities. So that's a plus, but you know, it's okay. But yeah, no, the 2 DLCs we're going to talk about are Dawnguard and Solstein, and we'll talk about Solstein first because it kind of ties into the main quest, but only like a tiny bit. But Solstein's interesting because, like I said before, it's like, oh, this other Dragonborn who was like hiding away in a plane of oblivion or something, forgot, like, for whatever reason he's coming back, and he's a dickhead, and like a few events play out, but like basically the interesting part to the whole quest is Hermaeus Mora essentially hiring you to kill a troublesome employee. Essentially, he's like, you know, I gotta get rid of this fucking guy, Steve. He's fucking with my shit. Kill him. Solstein, the island it takes place on in particular, the map for a tiny island, Solstein is fantastic. They fit 2 map biomes, like 2 fucking biomes on this tiny island, and it works great. It's fantastic. Like, you really do feel like you're in, like, on one half of the island you feel like you're in Morrowind, and then on the other half you feel like you're in Skyrim, and it works great. There's tons of interesting sights to behold. There's lots of, like, I shouldn't say there's a lot of fun characters. There's one fun, interesting character, and everybody else is like they're there on the island. But yeah, it's interesting enough, like, in like just having all kinds of weird shit on it. Other than that, though, it's like Solstein, yeah, it's pretty good. and then there's Dawnguard. I know one thing that kind of pisses me off is they didn't give like Dawnguard their own like new map. I like it when big DLCs have new maps. Personally, I just like the idea of having, like, you know, like a big new area that's not part of the main map to explore. But they don't do that, unfortunately. Dawnguard's just more like they add in a new faction into the game, and that's about it. 2 factions actually. They add in like ancient vampires and vampire hunters, and it's okay. It's okay. It's nothing like, again, it's the big running theme of Skyrim. Nothing to write home about, and that's kind of the problem with the game. But yeah, Dawnguard's okay. I would have somehow that one game of the year over another game, or it won DLC of the year over over a Mass Effect DLC, which is fucking weird. I can't believe that happened, but it did. But yeah, no, Solstein and Dawnguard, that's about all I really have to say about them. They're okay. They're good additions. They add more stuff to the game for you to do, so. Other than that, though, that's all I really have to talk about with like the writing in Skyrim. It's just fucking it. The writing is super bland and boring. Like someone, someone in, I can't remember their name, but they said in a video they hired a new writer and he wrote a bunch of the stuff in this game, but it tied to basically he decided to make everything simple, and it shows, and it's not a good change. I'm sorry, but get rid of this fucking writer and get back your old writing team. This guy is fucking he did this game in fucking Fallout 4, and stop using him. I'm sorry, but he's not a good writer. He's got this philosophy of oh, make it simple dumb. It's like no. I'll rant more about, or no, I'm gonna get into it now because otherwise I'll never get into it. But no, stop catering to people. Stop trying to cater to people who don't appreciate these games. Something I was talking about earlier was the whole game reviewers talking about Skyrim for 10 minutes. And if you listen to them talk, they all say the same thing at some point. They're kind of like, this game's okay, it's fun, but I'm not into this fantasy stuff. I'm not really into this game, so I just treat it like a sandbox, and that's how it should be. It's like, this is the kind of people that this writer wants to target, and no, these people will never appreciate Elder Scrolls the same way that at least the same way that I believe most other Elder Scrolls fans will appreciate. These people, when it comes to big open world games like this, they treat them all like a sandbox, and they don't actually get into digesting the game. And it kind of pisses me off a little bit. Because you have developers who, they put a lot into the game, and they put all kinds of effort into it. And, like, and this is like, I don't want to sound like I'm giving shit to these people for enjoying the game they want to enjoy, the way they want to enjoy the game, because that's fine. There's actually nothing wrong with it. The issue I have is that this is what this guy wants to cater to. He wants to cater to people who want to treat Skyrim the same way most people treat Grand Theft Auto. Like, most people, they skip Grand Theft Auto's actual story and they play, well, it used to be like most people, when they play Grand Theft Auto, they would just activate cheat codes and fuck around, but now they just all play online. And like, Grand Theft Auto is treated more like a fucking MMO nowadays than it used to be. But the point is that they're gonna treat they want to treat Skyrim the same way they treat Grand Theft Auto, and it's no, stop. Elder Scrolls is a more interesting, it's supposed to be an interesting fantasy universe that you're supposed to be able to get lost in, and I would like it to stay that way because it's fun that way. Please, for the love of God, as I probably said already earlier in the video, but please try to make the game for people who enjoy Elder Scrolls, not for people who enjoy Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. Okay? Those people will never appreciate your work the same way actual Elder Scrolls fans will appreciate it. And the game is more fun when you have more in it. Put more effort in, and bring back some of the stuff like I mentioned, like spell making and whatnot. Put more effort in the writing. I want to be able to talk about Skyrim the same way I would talk about Oblivion, but I have a hard time doing that because Skyrim's writing is blasé in comparison. It's not bad, it's just not interesting. It doesn't have depth to it like it should have. But I guess I'll kind of end this whole train of thought here and kind of talk about I want to try to end the video on a positive note rather than the whole thing being a pissing fest, because I really hope it doesn't come across as a pissing fest. I know I've probably thrown a lot of like shade at this game, but I want to put some level of emphasis on where I feel this game's weak points are, because I want them improved in Elder Scrolls 6. I want to be able to talk about Elder Scrolls 6 the same way I'm going to talk about Oblivion. Someday in the future, I'm going to figure out the logistics for it. I'm going to talk about Oblivion, because Oblivion is fucking amazing, and I can't wait to talk about it, because I love this game, and I think a lot of other people will love it too, but I need to figure those logistics out. Skyrim, I can't do that. Just lacks effort in areas, and I hope it doesn't sound like I hate Skyrim, because I don't. I love Skyrim. I keep coming back and playing Skyrim, but that's mainly because it's easily accessible. So I'm gonna try to now shift more into more positive feedback, but yeah, like some of the positive feedback I have here is that the map in Skyrim is fucking amazing. It is so fucking good. It is probably one of the best maps in any video game ever. Every biome, every area of the map is super distinct. There's like very few spots on the map where I get lost. I know the map like the back of my hand, and it's the way Bethesda crafts their maps, and it's a super smart formula they use. And what it basically is that they'll put in the map something that you could see from from the entire map. So in this game, for instance, it's the Throat of the World. It's the tallest mountain in Skyrim, and you could see it from almost the entire map, and that's fucking great. I love the idea that I don't have to look at my map to get around. I can just look at that mountain and kind of get a general idea of where I am in the world. And then there's like plenty of road signs and stuff like that. There's like very few spots in Skyrim where I still to this day will get confused and get lost. One of them's it's the area between Whiterun and Winterhold. Like, that area is so weird to me, and I don't know why. I always have a hard time navigating that for some reason. I've challenged, it's mainly because it's fast traveling, I suppose, but this current playthrough I'm playing right now, I've challenged myself to fast travel as little as possible, and so far I'm liking it, because you really do get to know the map more when you're not fast traveling as much. And you get to pick up on a lot of the subtle design cues and the way the developers carefully crafted this map, so that way it subtly guides players towards things. It'll catch your eye, and like without even like an actual path, it'll guide you towards something. This is like grade A. This is a grade A map. It's fucking great, and I hope Elder Scrolls 6 reflects this and continues doing that. Fallout 4 kind of did it. It's not as well done, because the problem with Fallout, and this is like not necessarily the developer's fault, but the problem with Fallout is that it takes place in a nuclear wasteland, so you're mostly gonna get gray in that map. They managed to find a couple clever ways to change things up, like Boston. If you think about it, it's a biome. It's a city biome. They have the glowing sea, and then they have the rest of the wasteland. But reeling it back real quick. Oh, they even have a swamp, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, no, to reel it back, it's it's a really good, well-crafted map. And I hope to see that in Elder Scrolls 6. Weapon animations and stuff like that, again, solid work. All of the weapons look great for the most part. I don't think there's anything in the game that doesn't catch the eye, and you kind of just like go, wow. Like even like the garbage fucking iron sword, it's like got like it's meant to lack personality, but ironically, that's its personality, is that it's a super insignificant weapon. Um, it everything reflects the whole Nordic culture of Skyrim. Uh, it's all really good. You know, and then like in Solstein, you know, like they bring elements of Morrowind into it, and it's very well executed. It's a very everything looks great. Like even now, like Skyrim looks good. Uh, I think that's a testimony to these games, is that like you know, like yeah, Skyrim doesn't look like a Frostbite engine game, but it doesn't need to. It looks good without being a Frostbite engine game. It looks solid. So I'm kind of getting to the end of my rope here. Really, I'm running out of things to talk about. Skyrim, like it's a good game, or it's a good game mechanically, but in terms of it being an Elder Scrolls game, oh no, okay, you know what? I know what to say. Skyrim's a good game, but it's a lackluster Elder Scrolls game. It doesn't have the same soul to it, and I'm going to blame the writing mainly. Like, I feel like I would have probably never noticed the spells making was gone if the writing was super good in Skyrim. Like, if the writing was top notch in Skyrim, I would have never noticed it. Um, and there's a bunch of other stuff I didn't really talk about, uh, and that's not even because that stuff's necessarily bad. It's just that it, this other stuff I kind of like went over is kind of more important in the grand scheme of what makes an Elder Scrolls game good. The side content is really good in this game for the most part. Like the side quests, the Daedric Prince quests in particular are a lot of fun. For the most part, they just because of the weird variety that they add. Um, but yeah, no, for the most part, this game's like it's not. It's a lackluster Elder Scrolls game. It's not a bad one, but you could do better. And I want Bethesda to do better. I want the best possible Elder Scrolls game out of Bethesda. I'm hoping we see that with Elder Scrolls 6. But if they do what they did with Fallout 4, or maybe 76, yeah, I really don't like mentioning 76 because that's such a different animal to what the rest of the Bethesda catalog is. But as long as it's more on par with Oblivion, I would love it. I want to be able to talk about Elder Scrolls 6 the same way I talk about Oblivion. So that's the main message I want to drive home. Anyway, like I said, I'm getting to the end of the rope here. This video is almost an hour long now. So, let's see here. I got nothing else to really say. So I guess I'll end the video here. Thank you, everybody, or whoever is watching this. Take